I woke up in a swamp hearing all my brothers crying or screaming, because they were hurt and it was natural or dead.
For millions of rock fans, Lynyrd Skynyrd seemed completely unstoppable in 1977. The band was selling records, launching a massive tour, and living the dream every musician chased for years. But behind the scenes, terrifying warning signs were already starting to appear around the plane carrying the group across America. Some people close to the band reportedly believed that aircraft was a disaster waiting to happen. And Ronnie Van Zant even made one chilling comment before takeoff that still haunts fans to this day. What happened just hours later became one of the deadliest and most heartbreaking tragedies in rock history.
If I told you every night, I don't think you'd believe me, but every night I have some kind of weird dream about it.
By October 20th, 1977, Lynyrd Skynyrd was exploding in popularity. The band was riding high with new members joining the lineup and a huge 3-month tour getting ready to launch in support of their latest album, Street Survivors. Everything looked like it was falling into place for the Southern rock giants. But behind the scenes, there were serious warning signs. The band's tour plane was a worn-out 1948 Convair 240, an aging twin-engine propeller aircraft that had already logged more than 29,000 flight hours. People close to the group were nervous about it from the start. Earlier that same year, Aerosmith reportedly looked at the exact same plane and decided it was way too risky to fly on. Even inside Lynyrd Skynyrd's own camp, concerns kept growing. Guitarist Alan Collins and head of security Gene Odom both pushed back hard against using the aircraft. Still, the band moved forward with it anyway.
And so I was hurt real bad, and I thought the plane door was on me.
Just before boarding, Ronnie Van Zant reportedly said, "If the Lord wants you to die on this plane, when it's your time, it's your time." That haunting statement would later send chills through the entire rock world. What Ronnie Van Zant said before takeoff would end up feeling painfully prophetic. On October 20th, 1977, the plane lifted off at 4:02 p.m. from Greenville, South Carolina, heading toward Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The flight was supposed to be routine, with an estimated landing time of 6:45 p.m. Pilot Walter McCreary even told the control tower they had around 5 hours of fuel on board, more than enough to finish the trip without problems. But not long after crossing into Mississippi, everything suddenly started going wrong. Just a couple of hours into the flight, McCreary radioed the Houston Air Traffic Control Center with shocking news. The plane was running out of fuel.
You're in so much shock or disbelief, and at the same time, belief.
The message stunned controllers, especially since the flight should have still had plenty left in the tanks. That desperate call would become the final communication ever sent from the aircraft. Inside the cabin, the band had no clue disaster was seconds away. Some members were relaxing and playing cards, while Ronnie Van Zant rested on the floor trying to sleep. Then the pilots warned everyone the plane had lost fuel. Drummer Artemis Pyle, who also knew how to fly, quickly told everyone how to brace for impact. Some people reportedly panicked, while others sat frozen in silence, praying they would somehow survive. Just 10 terrifying minutes later, the plane slammed into the wooded area near Gillsburg, Mississippi. Keyboardist Billy Powell later told the Orlando Sentinel, "I remember we started clipping those pine trees. It felt like being rolled down a hill in a garbage can and being hit by about 100 baseball bats at the same time." After smashing through the trees, the aircraft crashed hard into the ground and skidded another 140 feet. The crash turned completely devastating within seconds. The wings were ripped away from the aircraft, and the cockpit smashed directly into a tree, killing pilot Walter McCreary and co-pilot William Gray instantly. The force of the impact tore the plane apart. Parts of the fuselage split open, and the top of the aircraft peeled back, throwing passengers and debris everywhere across the wreckage. Keyboardist Billy Powell later told Rolling Stone, "I crashed into a table. People were hit by flying objects all over the plane. The shattered remains of the aircraft finally slid to a stop deep in a swampy wooded area in Mississippi. Powell somehow managed to crawl out alive, but the injuries were horrifying. When he looked at himself, he realized his nose was hanging off the side of his face and bleeding heavily. In total shock, the musician sat on top of the wrecked plane crying and trying to process what had just happened. Then he suddenly heard bassist Leon Wilkeson desperately yelling for help from inside the wreckage. Powell later remembered, "I remember Leon screaming, 'Get me out of here.'" Drummer Artemus Pyle had also survived, despite suffering brutal injuries, with his ribs reportedly sticking out of his chest. The scene was pure chaos. Pyle, Powell, and roadie Ken Peden eventually forced themselves to leave the crash site to search for help.
They were all over the room, and when I looked in there, I'd see them. And I believe it was their spirit that helped me get through it.
Injured and covered in blood, they stumbled through the woods until they came across local farmer Johnny Mote. At first, Mote reportedly thought the battered men were escaped convicts before realizing something far more tragic had happened. Johnny Mote later told Rolling Stone, "One of them was hugging me around the neck and telling me, 'We gotta get them out.'" The survivors were desperate and badly injured, trying to save anyone they could from the destroyed aircraft. But for some on board, there was nothing anyone could do. Pilot Walter McCreary, co-pilot William Gray, band members Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines, along with assistant road manager Dean Kilpatrick, were all killed on impact. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the music world instantly. The 20 survivors were left with horrifying injuries, including broken bones, deep cuts, and severe trauma that led to long hospital stays and painful recoveries. According to Rolling Stone, many faced exhausting rehabilitation just to walk and function normally again. As news spread, fans across the world were left stunned. Television broadcasts showed heartbreaking images from the crash site, and people could hardly believe one of rock's biggest bands had been ripped apart so suddenly. Almost immediately, questions started flying about what caused the crash. A major focus quickly became the plane's fuel situation. How could an aircraft that reportedly had enough fuel suddenly run completely dry? After a long investigation, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board released its official findings. The report listed several major problems tied to the disaster. Investigators concluded that both engines, quote, ceased to produce power because the aircraft's usable fuel was exhausted. The report also stated that crew members Walter McCreary and William Gray, quote, failed to monitor adequately the fuel flow en route, fuel consumption, and fuel quantity gauges. Investigators further claimed the crew did not properly make sure the plane had enough fuel before takeoff. But the situation may have been even worse behind the scenes. Investigators also believed a mechanical problem caused one engine to burn fuel far faster than normal. That detail suddenly made earlier warning signs seem even more disturbing. Just 2 days before the crash, guitarist Alan Collins reportedly saw a massive 10-foot flame shoot out of the plane's right engine during another flight. In a heartbreaking twist, Artemus Pyle later told the Orlando Sentinel that during that final flight, the band had already agreed that from then on, they would only travel on newer aircraft. Artemus Pyle later explained just how frustrated the band had become with the aircraft situation. He said, "We had decided to get a Learjet for the band, a beautiful bus for the crew. It was ridiculous for us to be on an old plane like that." Sadly, that decision came too late. After the crash, recovery was painfully slow for everyone connected to Lynyrd Skynyrd. The surviving members were left dealing with devastating injuries and emotional trauma that changed their lives forever. Alan Collins, Billy Powell, Gary Rossington, Leon Wilkeson, and Artemus Pyle all suffered severe injuries ranging from multiple broken bones to serious internal damage. Some faced months of surgeries and rehabilitation just to regain basic movement. At that point, it looked like Lynyrd Skynyrd was finished forever. fans feared the legendary Southern rock band would never return after such a catastrophic loss. One of the first difficult decisions involved the Street Survivors album cover. The original artwork showed Steve Gaines surrounded by flames, which suddenly felt deeply disturbing after the crash. The cover was later changed as the band and record label tried to move forward through the tragedy. But healing took years. It wasn't until 1987, a full decade after the crash, that surviving members finally reunited. The band came back with former guitarist Ed King returning to the lineup, while Ronnie Van Zant's younger brother, Johnny Van Zant, stepped in as lead singer to carry on the legacy. Even then, tragedy continued to follow the group. Alan Collins, who had become paraplegic after a motorcycle accident in 1986, later died from pneumonia in 1990. The heartbreak surrounding Lynyrd Skynyrd didn't stop with the 1977 crash. In 2001, Leon Wilkeson was found dead in his hotel room, adding another painful chapter to the band's history. Then in 2009, keyboardist Billy Powell passed away after suffering a heart attack. As the years went on, fewer and fewer original members remained, leaving Gary Rossington and Artemis Pyle as two of the last surviving figures connected to the band's classic era. Even decades later, the crash still deeply affects fans across the world. In October 2019, Ronnie Van Zant's widow, Judy Van Zant Jenis, joined supporters and loved ones to unveil a new memorial monument at the Mississippi crash site. The project was funded through the Lynyrd Skynyrd Monument Project, which raised more than $80,000 from dedicated fans who never forgot the tragedy. During the emotional ceremony, Van Zant Jenis said, "It's been 42 years today since we lost Ronnie, Steve, Cassie, and Dean. But they will live on through the music of Lynyrd Skynyrd and all of the fans from around the world." That powerful message still hits hard for longtime listeners of the band. In 2020, interest in the tragedy grew again with the release plans for Street Survivors, the true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash, a film centered around the devastating event. Around the same time, Lynyrd Skynyrd also prepared for what was announced as their final concert during the last of the Street Survivors' farewell tour. What do you think was the biggest factor behind this tragedy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. See you in the next video.